Okay, hi everyone, and welcome to today's session. We are delighted to be joined by Karen Sutton, who is the Widow Coach, one of the UK's first grief and loss coaches to specialise in supporting those widowed early in life, but also working with people suffering all kinds of bereavements, separations, etc. So, Karen, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Could you just give us a brief introduction to yourself, who you are, your background, and yeah, what you do?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So yeah, I'm Karen Sutton, and I am the Widow Coach, but I do also help other people, as you said, with any kind of loss, bereavement, loss of a relationship. Essentially, it's grief and loss, and it covers all angles of loss in life. My story, back in September 2016, my husband Simon died very suddenly. He had a cardiac arrest whilst out on a bike ride one Sunday morning. No underlying conditions, completely out the blue. My children, I have two girls, and they were 9 and 5 at the time. And as you can imagine, it was catastrophic. It shattered our lives into a million pieces. And I was thrown into this world of complete and utter fear, despair, and just sadness. You lose your joy, your hope for life, and you don't know what to do. Grief isn't really talked about, whatever the grief is. I think we have a very typically British stiff upper lip, don't we, where it's like, come on, get on with it, we can do this, it's all okay. And yeah, it's hard navigating your way through these losses. It's really hard finding your way through your own grief, and also trying to support two children, and their grief, and what their needs are, and meeting those needs. And I obviously worked my way through the first couple of years. I had counselling, which was great. It certainly helped me understand a lot of my feelings and emotions, because they're all over the place, aren't they? And you don't understand a lot of them, and you feel bad about a lot of them as well. You start resenting people, and you feel angry about things, and it's just all this negative energy, isn't it? You're sort of carrying around, and you don't want to be like that. So anyway, I had some counselling, and I got 2.5 years in, and when you just feel completely and utterly lost. I didn't know who I was, what I wanted, where I was heading, how my life was going to pan out. I didn't know anything. I was just surviving. And it was exhausting, and I kind of used the usual distraction techniques of food, drink, dating, spending. I did all that, and they had a place in it for sure. I learned a lot about myself, but you're like, I can't carry on like this. This isn't sustainable for life. But actually, none of those things were helping me. They bring that kind of joy in the moment, don't they? They are a distraction from your reality, and that's great, like I say. But in terms of finding that inner peace and that clarity, reducing the overwhelm, building your confidence back up. God, your confidence is shattered when you go through something like this, and the same with breakups and separations. So I didn't know what to do, and somebody mentioned a guy they knew who was a life coach. I'd never heard of life coaching. I was like, what do you mean what does a life coach do? It's like, what is that? So she said, look, just give him a ring. So I gave him a ring, and at the time I wanted to work on my health and fitness, because I was a lot more overweight. I wasn't very healthy, like I say, drinking and just battling a lot of things, and I wanted to be healthier for myself and my kids. So I got in touch with him, And we met up, and it was the best thing I ever did. It transformed my life, just investing in me. I obviously started off with getting healthier and fitter, and taking time for me. I just wasn't taking any time for me. I wasn't working. Before Simon died, I was a midwife. And I didn't go back to work after he died. I wanted to take some time for me and the girls. And actually logistically doing that job when you've got 2 young kids, I was like, oh, I'm not quite sure I'm going to do the nights and the weekends and stuff. So I didn't go back to that. So I wasn't working, but I don't know what I was doing with my time, if I'm honest. It just, you know how it is, you fill it up, and there's always something to do. So I took the time for me, and in doing that, it then sort of snowballs, and I was starting to talk to my coach about other things, and we were tackling other issues, and we were then talking about my mindset and, you know, my internal dialogue, the way I was talking to myself, my thoughts, my feelings, my behaviors, and creating an awareness around them. Were they helping me get to where I want to be? Were they keeping me stuck? Were they adding any value to my life? And it was a process, and it was a long process, and I had to work really hard at it. It wasn't always fun, it wasn't always easy, but like I say, it transformed my life. It was the best thing I ever did. I discovered who I was, what I valued, what I wanted from life, and also how to go about getting it. And then I went on and did some coaching courses. I did Sarah Davison's breakup and bereavement coaching course, which was fantastic. I also did a health coaching course, which was a year long, and that wasn't just about health in terms of diet and exercise. It covered, you know, sleep, stress, finances, purpose, relationships, all areas of our lives that we tend to, you get on the hamster wheel of life, don't you? And you just keep doing what you've always done, because you don't really know any differently, and change is scary, right? You know, even though we know where we are isn't great, we're safe in that. Our brains like familiarity. They like what they know. And even if we are utterly miserable in something, we can deal with it because we know it and we're safe in it. So it's like, I'm just going to stay here in my comfort zone and just put up with it and get on with it, and hope that one day it gets better. But you have to step out of that comfort zone. You have to push yourself and do things that make you feel uncomfortable, but in doing that, you grow and you learn things about yourself, and you discover things about yourself that you never knew existed. You know, all those things that you say, oh, I can't do this and I can't do that. It's rubbish. We tell ourselves stories that hold us back, that keep us stuck, you know, like limiting beliefs. And we don't believe in ourselves, and we don't even try. We just keep doing what we've always done. And I guess, you know, I had to change all that, and I did, and I went on the courses, and then I became a breakup and bereavement coach. So I was helping people kind of local to me. I live in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, and you know, people that had been through breakups and divorces, and some that were grieving loved ones that were bereaved. But actually, in lockdown, it kind of did me a favour, really, because I opened my mind to the fact that I didn't have to see people face to face, because I couldn't anymore, and I could help people all over the place over, you know, Zoom. And I just noticed I started to attract more and more widows, because obviously that's my story, that's what I've lived, and people resonate with that. Having said that, I still do help people that are going through breakups and that have lost parents, siblings. But, you know, widows connected with me, I suppose. So that's when I thought, you know what, I'm going to be the widow coach. Yeah. And that's what I do. I do one-to-one sessions with people. I also do group coaching sessions for widows, just to help rebuild and rediscover who they are, you know, what they want, where to go from here, and how to get it, you know, in a realistic way. I think sometimes when we want to change something, and a diet is a classic example, isn't it? You know, it's like, right, I need to lose some weight. We go on these crash diets. We start on Monday, we're all in, we're gung-ho, like, yes, I can do this. You know, and you kind of get to Friday, you get on the scales, and, you know, if you haven't lost half a stone, you're like, oh, the diet doesn't work, it's rubbish, I'm giving up.
Yeah.
and it's kind of breaking things down into small bite-sized steps, because, you know, if you do take small sustainable steps, consistently, they lead to the biggest changes in life. And that's something that I have certainly learned, and I'm still learning, because I think we always learn in life. It never stops. And I guess that's kind of my story in terms of how I got from there to here. And now I'm just so passionate about normalizing grief, I suppose, and helping people through that, you know, navigate their way through the grief, be kinder to themselves, connect with others that are going through something similar, because I think that's huge in anything you go through, and giving people the safe space to speak their truth in. I think we hold so much in these days. People find it really hard to be honest, even to themselves, about what they're thinking, they're feeling, and they're doing. And I just like to give people the opportunity, I suppose, to explore that, and notice it, and make the changes that they need to make their lives better. Because as much as I've been through something horrendous, and a lot of people have, I'm not on my own there, I am now in my life far more fulfilled and aligned as a person than I ever have been in my previous life, you know. And that's not to say I wasn't happy before with Simon, I was, but this has just revealed parts of me that I didn't know existed, and it's taken me somewhere that I don't think I ever would have discovered before, had this not have happened to me. And, you know, as much as if I could change it, I would, but I can't. I'm grateful for all the experiences that I've had, you know, good and bad. And I'm grateful for Simon, in everything that he taught me in life, that he's given to me, you know, in his life and in his death. And I think I found real meaning in that.
Yeah.
Real meaning in that. And that's given me my purpose now to help others find their meaning and build a life that they can flourish in, because you can. You really can. It doesn't have to be the end. And, you know, change doesn't always have to be bad. And I think we often think if it's going to be different, it's going to be bad. And it's not always the case.
Yeah, and that is wonderful to hear. I mean, you are obviously thriving now, you know, with your life and your family and everything. What would you say then would be the kind of foundations for widows when they're going through this? How do you get from that survival mode through to, you know, being in a fully kind of thriving life?
Yeah. Do you know what I think? Basics, patience. We all want everything yesterday, and when we are suffering and feeling bad in life, we want it to go away. We want to find something that will take the pain away and make it all better. Of course we do. It's horrible, you know, heartache is awful, whatever brings that heartache about. But it is time. You know, you can't get through something traumatic in life in a couple of months. You know, it's not going to work like that. It's a process. And I think we have to try and understand grief. I think that's something I hugely talk about with clients, is understanding that the process of it, you know, how it looks, how it feels, how we can learn to carry it with us far more lightly. It doesn't always have to be a very heavy weight. But by giving it the space that it deserves, so that we can find our way through it, not distracting yourself too much from it. dealing with those thoughts and emotions you're having. So I think working through it, learning to sit with it, getting comfortable with the uncomfortable, not being afraid. We're all so afraid of grief and of loss and of heartache and fear and loneliness. We distract ourselves from it all the time. We're just busy, busy, busy. We never, ever stop. And I think part of that is like, well, if I stop and I let it come out, am I ever going to stop crying, or will I ever get back up again? And of course you will. You know, it's like we're only able to cry for a certain amount of time anyway. We can't cry forever. And yes, it's exhausting, but you will get back up again. You know, you will fight. You have to find, I think, a reason. You have to find your why. And I remember very, very early days after Simon dying, literally a couple of days, saying to my mum and my sister, I don't want this to define mine and the girl's life in a negative way for the rest of our lives. And that was just something that instinctively kind of came to me. I didn't know how I was going to achieve that, or what I was going to do to make sure that happened, but I just knew that couldn't be my reality. And I guess that was my reason. That was my why. And I think we kind of have to connect with something that makes us want to go forward and find a new way. So I think patience and understanding it, talking to people, connecting with people. We're not very good at being open and honest, even with ourselves.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, we have to take responsibility for our healing. And that's hard because we haven't got the energy to get up in the morning a lot of the times. And we want someone to come and save us. We want someone to come and make it all better. Of course, you know, but that's not going to happen. And that's harsh. And as much as the people around you will support you as much as they can, it's down to you at the end of the day to work your way through it in the most positive way that you can. That is your responsibility. And I think the minute we realize that and we take that on, we're then able to step forwards with it. It's, you know, when we're in despair, we quite often blame other people for things. You know, it's like, well, this is just awful, it's not fair, they're not doing this, they're not doing that, they're not helping, they're saying the wrong things. But are you talking to people? Are you telling people how you really truly feel? Are you telling people how they can best support you? You know, because if you're not giving them anything, they don't know. How are they supposed to know, you know, especially if they've never been through something like that before. So I think we have to help others almost to help us by giving them a little bit of guidance. And actually, it's really good for us to talk and communicate. If you really struggle with talking, I always say to my clients about journaling. Yeah, it's a fantastic tool to use, and especially if you can provide your own safe, non-judgmental space. You know, I think sometimes we judge ourselves and our thoughts too much. So we're like, oh no, I can't think that, I can't write that down. But you have to let yourself, you know, we're not defined by our thoughts. You know, we are not our thoughts, if that makes sense. So we can think things, but that doesn't make you a certain kind of person. It's just a thought, you know. And we have so many. I mean, we have something like 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day, don't we? And 80% of those thoughts are negative, and 95% of those thoughts are repetitive. So you can imagine that's a lot of thoughts going around and around in our heads, like just taking us on this negative spiral. So talking, journaling is a really good way of noticing them so that you create that awareness so that you can change them moving forwards, for sure. I also think we have to look after ourselves in terms of what we consume. And I mean consume food, nourishment. You know, are you giving your body what it needs? Because when you're not feeding your body properly, and this is something a lot of us do when we're in a bad place, we just live off rubbish, don't we?
Yeah.
And it's like, I can't bother to cook, it's just me now. The kids are quite happy to have fish fingers and chips, and we you know, I didn't want to cook for myself. I had no interest in it. I would just live off rubbish, but that made me feel rubbish. I then had no energy to do the things that were going to help me get to a better place. So, you know, look at what you're putting into your body, but also look at what you're consuming in your mind. You know, what are you watching? What are you reading? What are you seeing? You know, the TV, the social media, the news, anything, you know, are all those things dragging you down? There's a lot of support groups out there for a lot of people, and some of them are really positive and helpful and will help you find your way forward. Some groups can sometimes go the other way, and it's a lot of people getting together talking about their challenges in life. But essentially it's like you're then just taking on everyone else's stuff, and no one's offering you any sort of hope or way forward through it. You know, it's just all a little bit doom and gloom. So look at that as well, because I think, again, we just get into bad habits of doing the same things over and over. And are those things serving you? Are they bringing any value to your life? And a lot of the time they're not, you know, that they're not helping. And as well, we have to be kind to ourselves. We put a lot of pressure on ourselves to achieve huge things. The expectations that we set are high, you know, and sometimes you want to keep things exactly as they were before, you know, the event happened, whatever that was for you. And we keep pushing through, and we're just setting ourselves up for failure, because we never feel good enough, because we're not achieving these ridiculously high expectations that we've set. Lower them. Be realistic. You know, you don't have to do it all. Lean on people. You know, people want to help you. Ask for help. You know, that there's support out there. But also, do you have to do all those things that you think you have to do? Or is that just you, again, putting pressure there that you don't need to do? We are our own worst enemies. And then we just feel bad. We focus very much on what we haven't done, what we haven't achieved, rather than looking at what we have achieved, what we have overcome, what we have worked through, you know, and that'll be far greater than what we haven't. And I always encourage my clients to focus on the things that you can control.
Yep.
There's a lot that is way out of our control that we can't do anything about, but we fret about it and we worry. But we can't do anything about it. So you almost have to let that go. And it's like, okay, if I can't do anything about that, what can I do? What can I do right here and now to make me feel better? Ask yourself empowering questions, you know, don't keep going down that negative cycle of questions that you can't answer, because you're never going to get the answer to them. So bring yourself back to the present and ask yourself questions you can answer, you know, things that you can do for you to help you find your way, you know, through it without worrying about the big stuff. I was listening to Julia Samuel the other day on one of her lives, and she just put it so beautifully in terms of you know, the things we fear and the things we worry about. And she said, you know, fear doesn't protect us from bad things happening. It just blocks us from sort of peace and joy in the present moment. And it's so true, isn't it? You know, we get so caught up in things that are way out of our control, that are in the future, that we don't know are going to happen or not. And it's just bringing it back to now every single time.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've actually got two Frolos who commented on the app who have recently lost their mums. Do you have any specific advice on how they start to navigate that early journey of loss, I guess?
Yeah. Don't put pressure on yourself to overcome it. Listen to your body, your mind, your soul. You know what you need. Your body will tell you what it needs. But we don't listen to that. We listen to society. We listen to other people, you know, and we take all that on, and then we're like, oh, well, you know, I should be going back to work now, or I should be doing this, or I should be much better. And there's no shoulds, you know. I just think should just be eradicated from anything and everything. It's a very individual journey for everyone. There is no value in comparing your loss to somebody else's loss. So if you know someone that's lost their parent in a similar way or at a similar age, anything like that, just don't compare it. This is about you. It's always going to be about you and what you need. Take the time, give yourself the time and the space to sit with it, to cry, to feel sad. You know, if you want to get out all the photos and sit with the clothes and play the sad songs, and you know, people say, oh, it's wallowing, I can't do that. And it's like, no, it's grieving. And we have to give ourselves permission to do that, to work through it. You know, sorting clothes out, all that kind of stuff, there's no time limit on that either. You know, some people want to do it straight away. Some people want to wait a couple of years. It's just listen to your body, and it will guide you, but we're not very good at doing that because we just keep pushing through. Find a way of releasing your grief. I mean, exercise is brilliant for grief, because, you know, when we are in a stressful situation, our stress levels are high, the cortisol's high, and we're constantly on high alert. And exercise is brilliant at bringing those levels down, and reducing the feel-good hormones, and which are perfect. That, you know, that will really help you. And, you know, I don't mean you have to start running marathons or cycling up mountains. Go for a power walk. You know, get out in nature. Do whatever it is you need to do. Find something that soothes you and comforts you, but let yourself do the thing you need to do without any outside pressure or, you know, beliefs you've taken on from society. This is yours, and you will find your way through it, but be kind to yourself in that.
Yeah, I think be kind to yourself is so important, isn't it?
So important, and we're rubbish at it.
Yeah, it's so true. I just wanted to take a minute actually to open it up to those on the call. If you had any questions that you wanted to ask Karen, you know, feel free to either unmute yourselves and ask the question, or you could drop it in the chat if you prefer. Anyone has any questions? No, maybe not just now. Okay, well, if you do have any, just yeah, drop them in.
I have a question. Is that okay?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, right, sorry, I think I had me. My mum died 7 weeks ago. She was very ill for the last couple of years with Parkinson's. I'm struggling a bit. Well, I'm struggling with feeling sad, missing her, because she was my best friend as well. But also towards the end, I know I need to say this quickly, but she was at home for a while, and I helped a bit with having her around for a meal once a week and took her some hospital appointments and so forth. But I don't know, because I was pregnant and I had a full-time job in my own house to run and that, you know, I only probably did a bit to help, and I'd sorted out her attendance allowance so she could have carers and different things. But my sister is angry with me that she feels she did more to care for my mum than what I did, and she's not speaking to me basically. And I now spending a lot of time feeling guilty that I should have helped more, and I don't really know how to deal with that really. Me and my sister don't get on anyway, and she was quite hostile to me to the point I didn't feel comfortable going to the house, and she lived with my mum. So I used to have my mum round to my house once a week for a meal, take her to hospital, and I'd sorted out the money for carers. But now I'm feeling like I should have done more, and I don't know how to cope with that. And my sister's angry because she did do more, I suppose, but she had more time. She lived in the house and she worked part-time. and I don't know, but I don't know how to cope with that now, really.
Firstly, I'm sorry. It's, you know, I'm very, very lucky I still have both my parents, so I can't imagine how difficult that is, you know, and it's awful.
Yeah, I don't have my dad. My
being...
dad died when I was a child. Yeah.
Oh, bless you. I am sorry. In terms of how you're feeling now with your guilt and with your sister, there's clearly ongoing issues there with your sister anyway. Like you say, it's been challenging up till now. It sounds to me, and from very little knowledge, obviously we'd have to dive a lot deeper on this, but she's obviously got things she's not dealt with in life that she's struggling to deal with, to live with. And when we don't deal with the things that we're faced with, we often project them onto someone else, because we want someone else to hurt like we're hurting.
Taking it out on me, like blaming.
So remember that this isn't about you, it's about her. Okay, so when she's lashing out at you, just remember that it's not about you, it's about what she's trying to deal with. Sadly, you're in the firing line, but try not to take it personally and take it on for yourself, because she's got stuff that she needs help with, and maybe she's crying out a little bit, but she doesn't know how to speak about it or what help to get to.
She accused me, I've only seen her twice since my mum died, and she accused me of leaving her to deal with mum on her own. But it's exaggerated. I helped a bit what I could, but she got so hostile with me, I had to avoid it for my own sanity and my pregnancy. And then I said something back, and then she said, "You've been abusive to me my whole entire life." And then I just walked off, because I couldn't. This was like a week after my mum died, and I couldn't cope with it.
No, of course you can't, and that's a bold statement to make, isn't it? And
it's a massive thing to say.
That's a huge thing to say, and it's hurtful, you know. And it's like, can you explain that a little bit? Where you go? Why do you believe that? But that's, you know, that's
what you can cope with, though, isn't it? I don't think I could cope with sitting with her for 3 hours hearing every single thing she's done wrong to her in her whole entire life, because I've obviously been there, and I know there's nothing big that I've done. So
and you know what?
Cope with, isn't it?
We all make choices in life. We all have choices, and people don't like that. And this is where we have to take responsibility for ourselves, because we always have a choice, you know. And your sister made her choices in her life, which led her to living with your mum and being a support for her and doing that thing. And a lot of us live in a victim mindset. Okay, so our life is always everyone else's fault. It's your fault because of this, and it's your fault because of that, and it's work's fault because, and they don't take responsibility. So just going to blame everyone else.
She did that with my mum when my mum was alive as well. You did this wrong when we were children. You did this wrong when I was 16. She's in her 40s now.
Yeah. And so I think there's that. But in terms of your guilt, and we're all terrible at looking back and feeling guilty for a lot of things. Just remember, okay, you did your best with the knowledge and the resources that you had at the time.
I feel now, I wish I'd been able to cope with my sister more, and like go to the house more and sit with my mum and be there for her more. But I guess at that time my sister was accusing, you know, lashing out, you call it, I suppose, and I just had to, I couldn't cope with her, so I avoided the situation.
And exactly like you say, you were pregnant.
Now I feel guilty.
Yes, because we can all look back in hindsight and wish things are different. You know, we of course we do, because then you've got the luxury of hindsight, knowing what the outcome was and thinking, God, if I'd have known that, I'd have done. But you didn't know what you know now then.
Yeah.
And you had to make choices then based on what you had. I had to preserve
my own mental health.
Exactly.
Like, not if something was going to make me feel so uncomfortable to sit in a house knowing someone was angry with me 2 foot away from me. I couldn't cope with it. I had to put my own sanity first.
You do. You have to look after yourself. You have to. You know, we all have to look after ourselves.
But
of course you do, and you're grieving, and
you're at home in lockdown. You're thinking about everything.
Yeah. Be kinder to yourself. Remember, focus on all. You're probably now looking back and focusing on all the things you think you didn't do very well.
Yeah, well, she hasn't helped me. She's told me I'm a nasty piece of work, and I left her to care for mum. And she even got the lady to say at the funeral, the Rembrandt or celebrant, like Laura cared for mum for the last 2 years and was happy to do it, and it was important to her. She got her to actually say it in the funeral. So it's not.
there's a lot there to unpack for you,
Yeah.
and there's a lot there, and your sister clearly needs some, you know, she's clearly grieving. If she was living with your mum, that's, you know, and maybe try and empathize with her just a little bit in terms of that was a huge part of her life for your sister. You know, she lived with your mum, she was the main carer, that's her purpose for living almost maybe has gone a little bit. And as much as she was a bit angry and resentful about it, it was still her role in life. Does that make sense?
For that last year or so, yeah. Well, they had carers 3 times a day, but yeah, she did obviously have things that she had to do for my mum. Yeah. How do you stop being bad? It's just like, I don't know.
By being kinder to yourself, by focusing on what you did do.
Yeah,
remembering.
I not do anything. My sister would just go very black and white, like you did nothing. She said you dropped your mum when she got ill, but I didn't. I took her to the hospital. I had her around for meals. I didn't drop her entirely. I just didn't do as much as what she did, but because she was so hostile with me, I didn't feel comfortable even being there.
Yeah,
just focused on that I did do some things.
Of course you did, and you did your best.
Yeah.
You know, and don't put yourself down. You know, remember that you did the best that you could in the situation you were in. You know, like
really difficult situation. Yeah.
Of course it is. You know, it is, and we're terrible at beating ourselves up. And looking at the negatives, but we have to reframe that, and it takes time. It's not something you can just suddenly change in your mind and it feels better. You know, each time you're having those thoughts, notice them. You know, we can't control the first thoughts that comes into our mind because there's so many, and we don't know which ones are going to come and when they're going to come. But what you can do is change the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, so on thoughts following that. So you can turn it around. So if the first thought that comes into your mind was, I didn't do enough, you can notice that and say, do you know what? I did my best. I did as much as I could at the time with what I had to give.
That's the thing. Like if you're pregnant, you're working full time, you're doing all your own housework. There's only a certain amount over. Well, there isn't really anything over. So anything is, you know, even a meal once a week and like hospital appointments. That's all. It's hard to do a lot more anyway. Yeah.
It really is, you know, and it's not just your thing. And you did what you could, which sounds like it was quite a lot, you know, considering everything you had on as well. And if your sister chose to do more, then that was her choice. Nobody forced her to do that.
Yeah, I got her attendance allowance, so they could actually afford for more. They could afford to a cleaner if they wanted. My sister hated people in the house, so they could have had more paid help. You know, she could have done less and had more people go in. I think she wanted it to be me. But,
well, she's clearly got something going on there with you, hasn't she? And she's trying to punish you, and she's and I don't know what they are and whether you have the energy to go through that with her. But, you know, again,
it's too difficult, and I have to protect my health, and I've got a baby as well.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I think you can say anything to anyone if you say it in the right way. And if your sister's got an issue with something, you know, she could come to you with that and say it in a way that you could talk about it and have a conversation. But, you know, by shouting and screaming and throwing accusations at people, it never works as a way of getting your point across. And it doesn't help anyone. You know, she's grieving your mum as well, and I should imagine she's obviously carrying a lot of other negative feelings around, you know, the situation with you as well, and that's going to eat her up. But the best thing you can do is focus on you. You can't control your sister.
And is it okay to keep away from it? I think, like, she said to me, like, you've done this to me and this to me, and then I just start losing it because I can't cope with it, because it's not very it's very distorted. I haven't done anything terrible to her, because I would know if what's happened, and she's very exaggerated and distorted, and I haven't got the energy for it, so I can't cope with it. So I probably couldn't sit and have a conversation with her for 2 hours because it would drain me too much. And she's been quite cruel to my mum over the years, moaned about living with her, brought up, she's been quite nasty. And I was very ill with my mental health 8 years ago. I had a breakdown, and she really dropped me 8 years ago. And I've reached out to her, invited her around for meals and things over the years, and she's never wanted to know. And then she wanted me there to help with my mum at the end. So she hasn't wanted to know me for 8 years, and now I haven't got the energy for it. I'm just done, and I have to protect my own health. And is that
you do. And
and
I always say this to people, you know, if spend your life with people that have, you know, want the best for you, that want to support you, that want to help you, that pick you up, that lift you, that
would just drag me down. If I had to sit with her going through everything she felt, but honestly, it'll be tiny things. I know little things that she's thinking about. Like, I used to go out with my friends on a Friday night and not invite her. Like, that is literally the level that she used to get angry about. And there is nothing else, because I haven't done anything else.
Yeah.
And I haven't got the energy to sit with someone going over stuff like that from 20 years ago. It's just not.
Exactly. And it's something you can't, you're not responsible for her and her life and her issues. You know, she has to deal with those in her way, and you have to live your life in the best way for you, for your children, moving forwards in a positive way. And if those two aren't aligned, then absolutely, you know, find your way, focus on you, and try not to take on her stuff. You know, it's not about you.
And you don't, like, you can make your life with friends, can't you? And
of course you can.
You don't have to. She's, I guess, my only other proper family member, really. But I've got aunts and uncles, but we're just not particularly close. But they're nice people. But I might try reaching out to them a bit more. But there's no point in having a sibling in your life if they're just going to criticise you and like make you feel worse.
And maybe say to her, you know, I'm here. Sorry, there you go. Just say to her, you know, I'm here, but you know, I don't want to be beaten up and trodden on, and you know, I think you need some help. I'm not the right person to do that, but if you ever deal with it and you feel like you want to relationship with me in the future, come back. But until then, I think you need to deal with the stuff you need to deal with.
Yeah, well, she started going, you left me to deal with mum, you've done this, do that. And I did just lose it. I said, I thought we were going to just focus on the funeral arrangements. I haven't come here for this. And she said, how can we have a real relationship if you won't listen to me? And I just went, we probably can't. I know maybe that's harsh, but I thought, I can't sit and listen to all this. It's going to finish me off.
Yeah, exactly. And it's about protecting yourself. So
self-preservation, isn't it?
It is.
On your own.
It is. You know, keep doing what you're doing. Be kind to yourself, and just remember that, you know, you did your best, and you did everything that you could with what you had.
Yeah. Well, people say think of the good times, and I look at all my photos of me and my mum. We used to go on holiday together and meals out, cinema, have loads of nice times. But now she's made me feel like I was just there for the good times, and then I dropped her at the end. That's like how she's worded it, and it's just. I think I'm taking it on like it's true.
You're taking on her stuff, and you know that's not the truth. You know that you did more than that. So you know, have the confidence, believe in
I'm
you.
Always feel now I should have done more.
But you couldn't have done more. You did as much as you could.
In the situation with my sister,
Yes, but she has to meet you halfway, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And you know that I without knowing more about it, it's hard to sort of help through that. But you know, I think trust yourself. You know, you'll know what feels right. And you know, if you feel like you want to reach out to her and say, I think you need some support, then maybe
she sees the counsellor. She sees the counsellor, but Mum says she's got a lot worse since she's been in counselling. She's been in it for years. So I think they're replaying all her things from her childhood, and she says she comes out in a foul mood with everybody.
Yes, it's a tricky one, but do you know what? Focus on you. Be kinder to yourself, and do what you need to do to help you get through this in your way, and grieve for your mum in the way you need to.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thanks.
No worries.
Thank you. Can I just check if there's any more questions for Karen before we finish up? Just conscious of time. No? Okay, well, thank you, Karen, for that really useful session. I know that there's going to be so many Frolos in the community that are going to find this so valuable. Just before we finish up, could you tell us where we can find you online, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so I'm on Facebook and Instagram. Karen Sutton Widow Coach is my handle. I've got a website, karensutton.co.uk, and you can email me. You can send me a message on social media. Anyway, I always love to hear from anyone really, and help where I can. So yeah, please reach out if you think I can help.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.